buildings as red, yellow, and green. The red buildings that came back were those that they said will cost us more to maintain than to just simply replace. The yellows came back as those that we need to make a decision on, to heavily invest in fixing them up or repairing them, but they're sort of on the line, we can stop them from nowhere. And then the green buildings are those that are doing well and don't need that kind of a serious project.
That is why we're all here together.
To get more facts, to make an informed decision when we go to vote. Please also understand that this building and this area that we're talking about are just one page, 15 from the regular plan. It's a much bigger plan than just area for the community. This gives a lot of our attention today. Tonight, you're going to be hearing more facts. Please ask questions and help us as the park moves forward in this most judicious as we can. But we are wanting to be a voice for the members, and I would encourage you all, if you have the time, think about joining one of these board advisory committees. I find them very interesting to participate in, and I would encourage you to think about that. We'll now get to turn it over to Doug. Dr. Hasse is representing the Finance Committee of the board.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Doug Hasse. I'm from the Finance Committee. I'm a CPA by vocation. I've been a CPA for 32 years. I guess the one thing I want to pick up on what Brad talked about is a lot of this is about replacing what we already have. We started this a while back. We had a list of what we need and what we want, the desired new things we want to add. And it turned out when we started looking at it, the cost for just the structures and the amenities came in at 42, was $43 million. That did not include anything for the lake. That did not include anything for the operational aspects, such as drain fields, roads, trucks. That wasn't in there. When we added that to the structure cost, we were at $58 million. That's not going to happen. That just is not possible. So but as a group we did is we looked at the buildings. A lot of the buildings have life left in them. So instead of replacing them, what's it going to take to renovate? They have life. Let's continue to use them if we can. It's still an expensive project, but it's certainly a lot cheaper than replacing a building. So if you look at the list, and it's online, I think Stephanie might have it too, but it's online, it's in a white box. Pull that out. Look what's in there. You'll see, in the process, we have to cut out a lot of amenities we want. There's not a lot of new stuff in there. Look at the list. There's a few new amenities. There's also some upgrades. I mean, the reason we are tonight is this area is going to be an upgrade. We're going to take buildings down. Let's at least have a discussion. How can we improve it? And that's what we're looking to do, is have a discussion. The rest of those items on that list is stuff we already own. CCs, pools, roads. That is the majority of what we're talking about. A big number. And you can sit here and say, we don't like the number. I don't like the number. But the reality is we can't put our head in the sand and ignore it just because we don't like it. If we continue to put this off, it's only going to get more expensive. So look at the list. Look at the list. I strongly encourage you to take a look at that. And I think you're going to see we're just trying to keep what we have in good condition for everybody to use it. And I just coming back, I mean, part of this process, we're trying to be proactive. We don't want to be firemen replacing things as we need. We're trying to be proactive, and that requires a little bit longer plan. And so I commend the board for doing this, because they're looking at that's what they should be doing as a community. What's the best way to move forward here? And so it's not a perfect plan. I think it's a good plan, and we certainly like to have your support in it. Turn it over to you.
Good evening. My name is Tom McKercher, and I am an architect at Wightman. I've been working with St. Hines since 2024, when we came up with the design you see behind us for a replacement for CC1, which unfortunately didn't go forward because of the cost of it. But I then was helping Stephanie, and we've been this project here. So thank you very much for being here this evening. It's a great turnout. I know it's the ice cream, but we still appreciate it. And I'm going to turn it over now to Steph, and I'll be moving this on.
Thanks, Tom. Hi, everybody. As mentioned, I'm Stephanie Howland. I'm with Wightman. Hopefully, some of you recognize Tom and I from the previous town hall we met. We want to, as was mentioned, we want this to be a conversation. We're not here at all to say, here's what has to get done, and no matter what, we're here to provide our wisdom, our experience, what we've seen in all the assets we have out here, what we know, the survey results we got back and heard, and how we try to kind of meld that puzzle together with all those parts and pieces. So if at any point during this presentation you want to ask a question, or you want to provide a comment or some feedback or whatever, please stop me. Please raise your hand. I know this isn't, sometimes these presentations seem very stiff, and I'm trying very hard today to not make it that way. So by all means, stop me, holler at me. They'll be keeping their eye on the crowd for me because I can't see. I am a little bit, so I'll do my best. Go to the next slide. So what we're doing here today is to kind of walk through some of these items that were already discussed. So we're going to tell you what we looked at, we're going to tell you what we heard, and how we evaluated everything, and then kind of work on that next step, that building step. How do we build this together? How do we build this together? How do we write the book? We have a couple ground rules for today. As mentioned, I would love all of the feedback that we can get. Every voice matters, and use the microphone to speak. We want to listen with respect. Differing opinions are actually super valuable because they help us paint a better picture. So even if you don't agree with something you hear, that's okay. We want to hear what you have to say. So bring it on. And I ask that we stay future focused. So this is part of kind of a master planning effort. As mentioned, we want to look long term. We want to be proactive and not reactive. Right? We want to try to think of what is the best for Sandy Pines, what's the best economically, what is the best long-term solution for some of these with the amenities around the park and the assets, and kind of have those conversations and see what makes the most sense. So, all right. So the first thing I'm going to kind of talk about is what we assess, and a lot of the information you see here today are information that we've already shared at a previous town hall. It's also already up on the. So when we go and do of any asset, whether it's a building like the one we're in right now, or a playground like the ones next door, or the well pump houses, or a convenience center, the process that we go through is we don't come out and do site visits. We look at the building, we look at all the systems, electrical, mechanical, the building envelope, the site, the sidewalks, things like that. And we have a database that's created, and this database lays information on top of those assets. And that's informed by, which is the Building Owners and Managers Association standards, so the construction standards, and the costing associated with it is provided through RSLeads, which is an industry standard group that helps determine the cost of construction. So we'll know how to determine the life cycle of something, how long a roof should last. RSLeads tells us what that should cost based on what it's constructed of. And then our expertise is to come in and say, you know what, this roof, it says it's at near the end of its useful life, but it's still in really good condition. It was maintained really, really well. I think it could last, successfully for another few years. So that's what we did to all of your assets up here that we were charged with reviewing. And I have some pictures of some of those. So we looked at site amenities, which include the parks, playgrounds, pickleball courts, basketball courts, the pools. There are houses and well houses, which we have 20 of around the community. There's convenience centers that we looked at, as well as general buildings, which is like this building that we're in right now, the ice cream center, the admin building, North Shore building, and other buildings, physical buildings around here. So we looked at all of those parts and pieces. We collected all of this data, and all of that data develops what's called a replacement value. So if every single thing that's in this building was replaced today, exactly how it is, not upgraded, if it doesn't meet code, it still wouldn't meet code, it gives a number based on that. So that number, that replacement value, tells us a lot of information all of the components of any building. So if your roof only has a year left on it, in 1 year, you need to spend a lot of money to replace the roof. There are the numbers that they give us that help us start painting this picture are, one of the most important numbers is what's called the renewal index. So the value of your building plus how much money you're going to spend over the next 10 years just to maintain it. And it looks at those two numbers, and if the cost, as mentioned, if the cost for a 10-year investment in that building is higher than just the replacement value, we should consider what that means, right? Should we be spending, the money over the next 10 years when we could have spent that same amount over 10 years and just built something newer, that maybe needs code that has, suits our needs better. So those are the things that we take into place. If you go to the next one, so you have 106 assets that we reviewed. 25 of them were in this green bucket, just keep maintaining it, everything's in, fairly good condition. There were 18 assets that were in what we call the yellow bucket, which we did have a hard look at. Is it something we need to spend some dollars maintaining them? Should we replace them? Should we renovate them? What should we do? Then we had 63 assets that were considered the red bucket, which are ones that really need to look at. They have a longer, RI or renewal index, right? It costs more over 10 years to maintain these buildings, these structures, these assets, than it would to just build them new. So that's one big piece of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle is the community. So as mentioned, there was a survey that was put out, and we asked, some questions that were asked about prioritization and what matters, and how do you want to invest, how do you want to see this community invested in. And so again, this is not new information. This is stuff that's already been out there, but there's over 1,200 people that responded. The lake, water quality, things like that. There were 4 big of the top 10 items. I know this is hard to read. It will be available online. But of the top 10 items, 4 of those items were very specific to the lake. And within this top 10 list are site amenities, buildings, safety was a big one that was brought up. And then general maintenance, just being able to have assets that are maintainable, that you're not having to put fires out all the time or put band-aids on things, that we can have a better long-term. That's important to have a longer-term picture on it. We did ask about those core, not core, there was kind of some bigger group potential projects, right? To try to group some of the red bucket items into maybe one bigger item. The core development was one, talking about there was an entry enhancement, and we got over 900 extra responses on what else outside of that. Outside of these kind of 5 or 6 categories here, what else would you consider? So we collected that. This is some of the feedback we heard. Obviously, it's not all 900, but these are just a sample of some of the items that were listed. Pickleball courts are in there. The beach is in there. There are, seating, the amphitheater. All these great, wonderful ideas were brought in on top of those bigger projects that could be maybe. So we collected all of those 900 plus responses, and it gave us, we kind of synthesized it, distilled it into these 5 values of, 5 little mini stories that we really think kind of embody what you guys are saying. You want to preserve the character of Sandy Pines. You don't want something big and too tall that blocks the beach or overly modern. You want something that says Sandy Pines when you see it. You want to invest wisely, right? You don't want to build things that are going to deteriorate quickly or have very high maintenance costs. You want to improve safety. So safety for when we park our vehicles or when we're walking around, safety for people that need accessibility, whether they're in a wheelchair or if it's just hard to walk around. We want to make sure we can accommodate everybody in the community. We want to support families. We want everybody to support families and plan together. We want to have everybody wants to have input, and you should. This is your community. This is for you guys. So that spoke a lot to me. At least, these top 5 values are really, really important. So if you go ahead to the next one. One of the areas of the survey that we sent out asked about prioritizing, these general buildings, like the one we're in now, the ice cream shop and others. That's kind of category 1. The convenience centers are a separate category. The site amenities, like the parks and the pickleball courts and so on, those are a separate amenity. And then the lake. And of those four main categories, the lake is top of the list, number one. The park amenities came in at number 2, the convenience center is number 3, and the general building is number 4. So that says a lot. The biggest thing is that we need to invest based on how the buildings were assessed, based on what we heard, based on what we know about the industry in general. Construction was not cheaper 10 years ago, or was cheaper 10 years ago, and it's not going to be cheaper 10 years from now. So trying to develop a plan that is, we don't want to move too fast into any one direction. We want to be smart about when we're investing and how we're investing, but really thinking through what that means. How do we do it? The last slide down. And this is something we shared the last time we were speaking to you folks, is there's kind of there's 4 different ways that we could do this. We could do nothing, and everything would be exactly the way it is now. And we'll, likely continue to have to have maintenance costs that are more reactively dealt with than proactively dealt with. Those items that are in the red buckets, eventually they're going to have to just start getting eliminated. Items that are in the yellow buckets will eventually turn into the red buckets. Green items will likely turn into yellow items, and so on and so forth. I don't believe that's what the community wants here. Another option is to just start eliminating items. Selectively choose which assets do we want to just drop and not have to maintain anymore. I also haven't heard back from any feedback so far either. The third option is to kind of maintain the deficiencies as they come up in kind. So we're not necessarily putting big expansions on or renovating buildings to be ADA compliant or to have better mechanical systems put in that are more energy efficient, or just kind of fix them as they break down or as they can be maintained. The fourth option is more of a strategic investment, right? So where we can try to think long term, how do we start picking these things off of the list over the next 15, 20 years so that it is what's best for Sandy Pines community in the long run, right? So we took all of this information and then we provided some concepts, which are what you see up here on the wall. I believe you guys have already seen these concepts anyways. You're welcome to come up and look at them now or whenever you like. But this is, all of the parts and pieces that we heard. We tried to pull something together just to give you guys some thoughts, some vision, to have a conversation with. Nothing that we've presented is anything that is set in stone. Everything can change. This is just to have a conversation with what could maybe be, right? And we heard feedback on them already, which I love. We know that option 1 especially probably looks a little too modern for Sandy Pines. That's wonderful. We love that. We know that the dairy dip, having a drive-through, is really, really important. So we need to make sure that that gets built into whatever the future of the dairy dip is. Amphitheater. Sorry. Hold on. You can have it in a second. The amphitheater. I'm on a roll of time. The amphitheater. We had some feedback. What about an amphitheater? And then we also heard feedback. But why are we doing an amphitheater? Right. So that's a great conversation. Let's this is for you. What do you want? Maybe it's not an amphitheater. Maybe it's a stage. Maybe it's not here. Maybe it's somewhere else. Maybe it's not at all. Right. But let's get all the feedback collected so that we can drive. What is best for Sandy Pines community collectively as a whole. And spending wisely is obviously kind of the big piece here. Nobody's in the business to just put money up and not ever see anything out of it. Everybody knows, we come here because we love it here, not because we want to throw a bunch of money away, but we value the assets that are here. And how do we continue that value long term and not lose those assets, over time from the lack of, not maintaining them or having a plan in place, right?
Well, thanks. I'm just going to underscore one thing, maybe, that I think that is important to know, because I know that there is a lot of temptation to be asking us questions about these designs, and we're going to reply with we don't know, which is going to be frustrating for you. We just wanted to use these for conversational starters, but we don't know what the buildings would look like. We need to engage you folks if you decide to replace these buildings. Now, you may also decide, let's just keep this building the way it is. Let's repair the roof. Let's replace the electrical. Let's deal with the fact that this building is slowly sliding into the light. And let's deal with the retention wall and fix all of that. We can do that. We're happy to do that. There will still be deficiencies. It'll still be inefficient, not as inefficient, but still. And it's our opinion that it would be just as expensive, if not more expensive, to renovate this facility than it would be to tear it down and build new. We'd say the same thing for the Dairy Day. But, you know, we heard some comments, a restaurant by the lake would be nice. Well, is that very good? I mean, do we want it to be more than what it is today? We know that the drive-thru is important, but do we want it to be more of a sit-down type restaurant? We don't know that. We haven't had the opportunity to engage you. And if you decide to move forward and you do want that to be replaced, all that we're gathering up to this point, and tonight will be our springboard to begin discussing the next step. So with concept 1 and 2, I mean, it's very clear that you prefer concept 2, and we like that too. And you could have smaller individual buildings that are smaller in scale, much more Sandy Pines-like. But there are some efficiencies if you were to combine some of those programs into one building, from a construction standpoint, from a utility standpoint. So we wanted to look at that, and how do we do that but still preserve the view shed to the lake? And we did that by sort of focusing the arrangement around an open fire pit. But then we also heard, we don't need fire pits. We all have our own fire pits. We don't need a communal one. Great, we can do that. We don't need an amphitheater. We don't want the amphitheater to just put up in Grand Rapids. I assure you this was nothing like that. But fine, we don't, does it want to just be a shaded area where you just bring blankets and chairs and those are all conversations that we need to have. So that's all I really wanted to understand. But we do now want to hear from you. We'll attempt to ask or answer questions regarding these designs. We want you to leave here tonight feeling as though you've been heard, because we have been listening, the board has been listening to you. This is now our third time to be soliciting input from all three folks. So, who wants to start? Please.
Tom Hall, 0086. Here's some facts. 5 to 7 years, the president's gone. Within 10 years, you have a complete turnover of this facility. Have we even thought about a 5-year plan and then every 5 years start thinking about it? Maybe that's where we need to go.
Yeah, and I think we've looked at a long-term plan, but then we've broken it into smaller chunks. And I think that information has been sent out to you, and I think, Doug, maybe you can speak to this more, but we do have dollar amounts associated with each.
Okay, so a 5-year plan, that gets difficult. So think about it right now, in the current first 5 years, we're looking to maybe do CC in phase 4. It's going to be hard for me in phase 5, where my CC is good for quite a while. I don't know that I'm going to get a vote to replace my CC 15 years from now. It's going to be much easier for me to be part of a plan that says my CC's covered a long time from now. We can cover the pool, which is probably 10 years from now, or something be done there, so that we all are comfortable that our interests are covered for a period of time. It's just a 5-year plan. It's going to be hard to say we're going to get a vote to do a CC in phase 4, and phases 1, 2, and 3 are going to approve that.
I've been here since 1972. I've seen this board make 7 major mistakes that almost cost this place its extinction. What makes this any different? With a 25-year plan, that's gonna cost me $20,000, what makes this any different?
And that's a tough question.
No, it's not.
Well, I think it is.
No, it's not.
Because part of us, we're trying to stay away from getting into trouble because we haven't planned it. So that we don't get into these big construction projects that we never saw coming. So we're just trying to plan to be a little proactive.
So, my major question is, how much of this is the state mandated we have to change, and how much is this desired?
I'm gonna circle back.
No,
Almost everything that we are proposing here is to replace what we already have.
but has the state mandated that?
I can't answer what they will or will not do in the future.
Okay.
I can't answer that question.
So the state hasn't at this point mandated anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Very good, thank you.
Hi, I'm Steve Welch. I'm 45. First of all, thanks for the efforts. I know it's a little time investment in all this. I appreciate the time. Just two quick questions. While I'm in all this, I haven't seen what the operational budget impact is. I hear the difference between tear down and 10-year plan, but that's specific to the capital. What is actually going to be spent if this were approved on the operational level? What's the delta there? So I'd like to see that. I don't know if that's out there yet or not.
That's not out there. But two things I know would go up is our property tax would go up because our buildings are more valuable. The insurance is gonna go up because obviously buildings are more expensive. What we don't have is what are we gonna save in repairs? And those guys they're working their butts off trying to keep this place going. And we don't know it. We really have any way of knowing that number. We replace this building, what's our real savings in repairs? So it's like, I can't necessarily answer that question with a real dollar. I know there should be savings repairs. No question about that.
But also an increase as well.
There will be some increases, no way.
That's what,
Property tax insurance for sure will go up.
so that's what I haven't seen yet on the overall presentation. Is operationally, what will the increase be?
We don't have that number.
Okay, that might be worth spending some time on. The second thing I have is that, is there a proposal with just the needs in place? Instead of the wants of the survey and the needs of the infrastructure, what is that baseline need look like?
So I'm gonna encourage you to look at the list for the 25 years and see how many of those items are replacing what we have. So there are a couple new amenities in there. We're talking about some additional pickleball courts. That's in there. So that would be a need that could go away. Also the renovation here. You know, if we replace this building, or if we don't replace this building, obviously that cost goes away. And so I'd say those are the two biggest ones. Really, this area is the biggest one that would change. We didn't do the change. Everything else, we have to do. We have to replace our seat station or renovate. We're gonna have to do our pool. That number's not going away.
Is that maintenance information out there, the cost of maintenance out there available to see?
Not broken down by pool or not in, the overall repairs is out there on the website. Look, finance section, it will be there, what we're spending every month.
All right, great. Thanks.
Hello, Todd, 5182, I'm also USO, and then I'm north as well, I work in Park. Mine's more of a statement. I hear a lot from the membership about costs and everything else. I've been here since I was a child, and there are people that have been here for 29, 30 years. We've all invested in multiple campers. My grandparents started out in King. Now I'm on a lot there in the parking lot with a porch, two $10,000 golf carts. And I know there's been issues within the park as far as where the money goes to maintain this, where the money goes for this. We spend it on our lots to upgrade from a tin can to to a park model. I don't think after 55 years to say that we need to replace something, we do. This building's old, it's been here since I was a kid, I'd like to see it replaced for my grandkids. The other thing is dealing with the renderings and drawings is from a safety issue. Me working here, I see a lot of traffic. This is a big traffic area and it's been an issue. At one point, the road was where the parking lot was. And the parking lot is where the road is. But when we started having parking lots here, vacation and couldn't get through. That could be another issue that we're going to have here. Because if there's a lot of talk out there about possibly going to a resort. If the parking lot grow to 40 foot or 55 foot, are they going to be able to make that turn and get in there? Also, we're having issues with scooters in the park, as all y'all know, and golf carts. To have everybody congregate in 3 lots and not have designated lots like we do now for golf carts here in a traffic flow pattern where maybe you got the cars coming in from Park and Garden and looping back their one way and they go back to Park and Garden. The golf carts, maybe they come in this way to this Newport area and they loop down along the beach for a nice scenic drive and can park here looking at the beach and head around back to the 4-ways and we put a 4-way down there, a 4-way stop that stops the flow of traffic intermediately and makes the whole area safer. That's my input to what you have as far as drawings go. As far as the one thing that I haven't heard from Wightman, and I don't think we're there yet, just from my background, is interior finishes. What type of buildings are we talking about? We're talking about pole barns, and I think that would be helpful to the membership to have that. Hey, are we looking for a 5-star gun lake bathroom? Or are we looking at the CC we have? Are we looking at a 5-star restaurant? Or are we looking at the pavilion we have? And I think the membership would like to see more of that on the rendering. One of the things I'd like to talk to the committee people about is the actual buildings themselves. I think another thing is you're wanting people to throw out a vote for $40 million in a month, which is hard for everybody to swallow. If they had the cost of the building we're going to replace, if it's 13 CCs at $3 million apiece, how much of the $40 million is going to go towards them 13 CCs? How much of the $40 million is going to go towards this building? How much of the $40 million is going to go towards the other buildings? And what stages are going to actually replace, as you were saying, the one we already have? It's really a reinvestment in the park, and I think people are having a hard time swallowing. They want this, that you're trying to show them renderings of what could be, and I think they want to see more of, this is the apples we have, and this is the apples we're going to get. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Kevin Morgan, 365. What people don't want to talk about is at the same time we're being asked to provide a vote for a number that I've heard somewhere in the mid to high 40s to the mid $60 million over the next 25 years. We're being asked to approve for an NBA program for the board. I don't like how my money's been spent for the last 10 years. Why would you expect me to approve the next 25? We're spending money on because it's in the budget. And I've worked in the trades and I've worked in public service. I know how things go. Well, if we don't spend it this year, we won't get it next year. We're talking about what it costs to replace this building. But we just built that monstrosity, the North Shore Center, which blocks any and all views. We built it on a site that they said was unbuildable. They tore the Onion pool building down because they said it was a stupid site to build a building. And then they put another building there. I've heard nothing about usage study. I can approve a lot, but we basically service the activities here 4 months of the year. This building never gets used. What are the hours per month that this room is occupied? Why are we talking about replacing it if we don't know how much it's used? We've already approved and paid for that, and it's not used. Nobody's done any usage studies on any of that. Why are we approving all this stuff? I don't want to see any more monstrosities between the roads, the people, and the lake. The lake was the number one. Everybody says the lake was the number one asset, the number one investment. It's not addressed till when? We've got problems now. We've got problems with the weeds, we've got problems with the mussels, and nobody's looking at any of this. This doesn't come in until year 3. There is 0 chance I will vote for any 25-year plan. If I can't monitor what you're doing for 3 to 5 years and then vote on the next one, it's not happening.
My name's Jerry from Phase 3. Most of my comments are the same as the last gentleman. It has nothing to do with people from but there are some committee members here. One of the questions I got is, I'm here because I like fishing. I can't fish now. There's so many weeds out there, you can't even control for a fish. And we haven't done a thing to address it. Nothing. All we talk about is spend money on buildings. Again, on a North Shore building, that was the biggest waste of money I've ever seen. And when is the board going to listen to us? When? They ask our opinion, we give our opinion, and they still do what they want. And there's a lot of people here that are tired of it. So the board better start listening. This is a campground. We don't want to build a city. We come here to relax, to enjoy the environment. We don't have to build big, expensive buildings to do that. And it seems like all we want to do is spend more money, more money. What's going to happen? The few people, the majority of the people that come out here for a weekend, they're not going to be able to afford it anymore. And you're going to see the value of this campground go down if you don't start listening to the people that own the campground. Please start listening.
Just to be clear for everyone here, we're not the board sitting up here, we're members, just like you, who have volunteered and are volunteering to be part of the committee. The committee that brings advice to the board. So, I mean, I would encourage you to take your comments and remember that we're not the board sitting here tonight. And we're just working on a committee that's trying to advise the board. I think these are very good comments, and I appreciate you sharing. I just want to clarify that for people.
Jill Groen, KU259. I was just going to say that. Great comments from everyone so far. Please make sure the board hears those comments at the next board meeting. Get up and speak to them directly. So my question is, okay, this building's got to go because it's falling into the lake. Why can't we use the North Shore, which is not used that much, take the activities that are here and move them over there and make full use of that building all hours of the day? I know there's some issues with the building in terms of, acoustical issues, flooring. That could be retrofitted to accommodate the activities, much cheaper than building a whole nother building. Just a thought on that. The other thing is that I don't know how old this building is. Is it 50-ish years? Okay, well, in any event, it's old. And at the time, the park was probably, a different environment. Maybe more camping and less park models with showers and, running water bathrooms and everything. Did we, when planning for the CC part of this complex, adjust for the number of showers, the number of bathrooms and that, or is that just mandated by the state, by the population in this area, or the park itself? You know, I mean, no need to build 25 shower stalls now when 25 years ago maybe it was needed, because everyone has a shower in one place.
To answer your question, we didn't plan for this particular replacement.
Well, I meant this.
Yeah, the CC one, yes, we did, there are some state mandated, fixture counts based on the number of campsites that are being served. I don't recall exactly what that was, but there is a document that was provided to us from St. Pine. And we designed this CC one to adhere to those numbers. Maybe we do the same here if you folks chose to replace it.
I'm Bob from 6070. My question is, what is the relationship of the park to the Chapel Association? You talk about an amphitheater. I'm thinking the chapel area gets used Sundays and maybe once in a while for a wedding. If we need more concerts and plays, maybe that facility could be used in connection with the association.
I would say, just like any of us know the answer to that question.
I don't know what the relationship is between the site.
We really can't answer that.
Oh, we don't need an amphitheater. We have that space that is not being used Monday through Friday. And maybe it could be.
You know the church is a separate organization, separate and distinct from St. Pine's. So I don't know if there's something there or not, but I mean, that's a comment that should be brought forward, so thank you.
My other comment is, we don't need to talk to the board members because they are on the committee advisories to the board. And they will be the board should be listening to them based on us. They have more weight than we do when you talk to a board member. Our weight is putting on them as the committee members. And committee members should be influential to the board based on what you hear from us.
I may push back a little bit on that. The board has changed some of our stuff that we were looking at. So the board is pretty involved in what's happening. They really are. They take our advice, but they do change.
Jim Hawkins, 4031. Just kind of a question, comment. 10 years ago, hardly anybody played pickleball. Who knows, 3 years from now, nobody's going to play pickleball. But what are we going to do about the next pickleball phase?
I'm going to say there's a reason why the pickleball is being done in 2 phases. Certainly right now, there are weights over there. We're not having 4 courts now and 4 later. And part of us to address that. It may not continue to be as popular as it is now.
I'm Dave Beam, Rock 74. I would like to know how many of our amenities are profitable. Or do we just kind of have them for a few people and the rest of them, you know, every one of our amenities, the store, the restaurant, you know, should be profitable. And we should be striving to have a plan to have them profitable. The ice cream shop, it's profitable. The golf course, I believe, is profitable. But we use things that are weird, okay? For example, the golf course owes the park some money. So, we pay the golf course money so that they can give us the money back that they borrowed originally. That's, you know, I had better sense than that when I was in a kindergarten. You know, so why don't we have some of those things become profitable so that they could help us support this? Because we support them in the use like lunch or breakfast or whatever.
So as a finance committee, we look at every month the budget, expenses and the income. And so it's data, how that is doing, how the store is doing, and they're all profitable.
It's all profitable. Could be more profitable.
I'm not sure it was one thing more for coffee.
How many vehicles do we have for the Rangers? And how many is it replaced every year so that they can get 2 or 3 of them parked by the Ranger station? I mean, that's kind of nice that we bring them out of the garage to park them there and then drive them around for 10 minutes and come park them back again.
I can't speak to how many there are. The plan is to replace a vehicle every other year, and they buy used vehicles.
Why would we want to spend money replacing them every other year? I don't replace my car every other year, and they don't get that many miles put on them to replace them every other year. I'm guessing that we could use them for 5 to 10 years, and they would be still looking good with few miles.
Maybe misunderstood. We replace one vehicle every other year, so they are actually using them for 10 years after they bought a used vehicle. So
How many do we have?
I better not, I'm not sure. So I better not answer that
Can
question.
you give me a guess?
I prefer not to. Because then I'll be wrong, so.
I'm just saying, it seems like, you know, with the amphitheater, we don't need an amphitheater. We've had, you know, we can use the chapel. We own that land the chapel's on, correct? So, we can't say, I asked the question, why can't we use the chapel? Okay? The answer I got was, well, there are people that want to reserve their seat for Sunday service, so we cannot interrupt them. And let's say 50 people go over there and reserve their seats. So we're not using the chapel for an amphitheater because of 50 people? Well, what kind of percentage is that?
Again, it's a separate entity, so just want you to remember, that is a separate entity, and they have a long-term lease for ownership of that property. That's not for Sandy Pines as an organization to make those decisions. That's for us to work with them to see if they could help us, and I think that's reasonable. And I think they do that. They do help us. There were concerts there before and that kind of thing. So we try, Sandy Pines tries, and I think they have a very good working relationship. But some of your statements, I think, are too black and white for the actual facts of the situation. That's my opinion. I think it's a good statement, and I think we should take them into consideration to try to continue to enhance some of the things you're asking about, like reserving chairs and stuff like that. I don't know anything about that. I do want to circle back just for a minute. Are you done talking, or do you have some more to say? Because I have a comment to make. Well, I don't want to stop you. I don't know what to say.
No, these things are just questions that I have. And could we look at what we do have to make things more profitable, or do we want to just say, like the government, well, we'll build a new building because we'll tax them. You know, it's like, I have a lot of questions. How can we have a campground with condominiums? But we can't take our doors off of our places in our porch. Now, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now, and who's responsible for that? I had a porch put on and the doors taken off of my unit, and I was approved by the inspector at that time. Oh, now I'm illegal, so I can get fined, I can get this and that, right? Now, who's responsible for some of this stuff?
So a lot of us are in similar boats where things have changed after we come through this approval process. And that wasn't driven internally, that's been driven externally, by outside agencies. And so I think those are good questions, and we have them on the record now. So we'll bring them forward to the administration and the board to try to get answers for you. What I wanted to do is just remind everybody that the long-range planning committee and the finance committee are trying to represent and are representing the members. And that's why we started this survey on membership. And that's why we got all these responses back. The memberships came down to, we want to maintain and protect our investment, because that's the easiest way to bottom line sense. We wanted to protect our investment in this park. We didn't want, when we bought in, my wife and I bought in about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago now, we were hoping that when it came time for us to sell, we at least make our investment then. Well, they've really gone up in the last 10 years. And we want to protect that investment. So when we heard back from you as a membership, the 1,200 of you that responded, we heard clearly that maintenance and upkeep of this park was the #1 priority. Not all the extra stuff, not everything, and those were in there, and that was a priority, is a priority. The #1 thing is to maintain this park. That's why when we hired an outside firm to come in and tell us what is the status of these buildings, we needed an outside, or I felt, and we felt, the committees felt, and ultimately the board decided, yeah, let's bring in an outside firm. Let's bring an outside organization that does this for a living, tell us about our buildings and infrastructures. And that's how we got to this place today. So I know I'm hearing a lot of negativity against it, but I want to tell you that it was based off of the membership speaking that we even went forward at all with doing this kind of evaluation. This evaluation was shocking to all of us. It's our pocketbooks as well as yours. And it's not fun to pay more. Nobody wants to pay more. But I think what we heard, is that we want to maintain the value of this park. We've seen parks, campgrounds across Michigan and other states go under because they haven't kept up. And so we want to keep this place, that's what this membership is telling us, is we want to keep this place at the level it is now and keep it so the buildings that are used well and the investment makes sense. So I just wanted to let you know that circle back to the origins. And I think your comments today are very helpful to us because maybe this is not the right approach to this. And how do we make it better? But the long-term goal here, to come up with a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan, is not going to address the long-term issues of this park. We need to have something in place. It's my understanding, we came in 10 years ago and the indoor pool was closed. It's my understanding that that's because it wasn't maintained properly and we didn't allocate enough money for referendums or whatever was brought forward. So how do we stop that from happening again? Because we're still hearing a lot of negativity about indoor pool. And I can understand for those, I never got to see it or enjoy it. And for those of you who were here, I can see why you'd like to keep that amenity. So how do we keep the current amenities we have without having to close it down? Is one of the things. Well, I want to invest in my home and it's going to cost more to keep it up than it would be to replace my home. It's just one of those things that when we're in
That's,
We also want to look at improving. So when we did one of the floors in our house, I didn't realize until my wife told me that also meant we're going to get a refrigerator and a new stove and the furniture and all that stuff that goes along with it. And I'm like, oh, I thought it was just going to be this, structure. And, but so when we're improving, that's the time to look at, are there things that we should be doing to enhance it, on a reasonable scale. So thank you for your comments. I didn't want to take too much of that time, but I did want to tell you how this all started. It started from your back to the committee switch that we had on to the
Again, 5182, I actually have, this is more directed at Wightman because it actually brought, I think Jill brought up a point a minute ago about CC and stall segments. Is there, 30 years ago, this building might have had an occupancy of 200, what we're spending currently now. Is there anything out there that if we do build a new building here or a new area and we're going to accommodate 50 parking spots now, well, parking's not big enough now, this building is going to accommodate 200, and is there a way to project that occupancy out to the 25 years that you're asking for an investment to accommodate the population that's going to be at 25 years from now? Is it still going to be able to function and do what we want it to do with the occupancy? Same way with the CCs as well. I don't know if there's RS means we'll do that or Homer will actually project it out like that. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Well, I'm not sure that I have those documents would project in this area. Occupancy growth. And as you know, anytime that you're in trades, the size of this room is directly related to the number of occupants you are hoping to serve. So I think what we would have to do is maybe put some sort of escalator per year on occupant growth. And so
I look at we're at max, yes, with the membership, but as far as the guests coming into the park on the busy weekends who can now rent this facility out or the North Shore out, a wedding party can only be so big at the North Shore, and it's only going to ever be that big at the North Shore. And 50 years from now, wedding parties may be twice the size they are now because of that. So I just think it needs to be looked at as far as the growth of it based upon the past.
yeah, I think that would be a good conversation for us to have, as we always do. And of course, we also have a budget to work with, and we don't know what that budget would be for this facility, but we have to back into that, and it might end up, it would dictate how many people we could afford to accommodate.
Right. That's something that the membership would like to know. I mean, if we're going to replace this building and it's set up for an occupancy of now, Jim, do you know what the occupancy of this is? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it's 150 max, are we going to get 150 max building in place?
Yeah.
And I think they might. Us as members would like to know if we're going to have that same apple to apple occupancy.
That's exactly the kind of conversation we would have if we made decisions in places where this is critical.
Tom Hall, 086 again. I recently retired. We bought a property in another state, and I had dreams of that property. Although those dreams do not come to fruition, I think what you're taking is the maximum dream of people, and you're trying to build it at an extensive expense. And we need to size that down to to where we can actually live with it. That's why I come up with the 5-year plan. In 5 years, the board will no longer be here. In 7 to 10 years, the president will be gone. In 10 to 14 years, this group here will be gone. And there will be different ideas for what needs to be done. So we need to size this down to about a 5 to 7 year plan and see what we can do. And if the board's not willing to do that, I wish them great luck.
Mary Manson, and I'm in 934 over in Phase 2. I bought in just in 2016. I saw similar drawings over in a building that was across over there, and it had what they were going to replace and what they were going to build, and a senior center, and a this and a that. It was a bait and switch, because we didn't get it. I have chased around this park for 10 years, asking for a senior center. We used to be able to have a cup and a buck in the end of the admin building, which was the library. Nope. We gotta have a meeting in there. We can't have that for seniors. So when the library was in the corner, over by the lunch store, I asked when that moved out, could we have that little corner for seniors? Now, we're gonna rent that for a spa. I have chased around, and I even asked last year, we have a tot center, which I've gone in there many times, but people aren't in there. But we don't have a senior center. Now compare the number of people.
You got the north building.
Look, yeah, you got the north building, but we also have a board meeting room up there that the seniors can't use because they need that too, as well as the end of the admin building. When we don't have any place for the seniors, and now I see on these drawings, a senior center. Well, are we gonna have a bait and switch? Are we going to live to see it? Or can we get a 5-year plan that this is what we're going to build in this first 5 years, and not just put some drawing out there to be bait and switch for 20 years and we'll be gone.
Like Doc's 50/20. It isn't just an observation on my part, but I've been here since the early 70s off and on. I was here when this was privately owned. Membership bought this. And I remember at the time, it sounded like a big number and there was a lot of heartburn. It turned out to be the best thing we ever did. So and every 3 or 4 years when this board rolls over, they inherit what the last board did. We just don't have enough continuity. I understand what the gentleman's saying about the 5-year budget. I don't want my money wasted either. But I would kind of like a long-range plan so the next board has a guideline as to what we want them to do. Instead of every time the board changes hands, we veer this way or we veer that way. And we come up with different ideas and they're right. Some of these things never get done that we're told are going to get done. So I, for one, do like a long-range plan, as long as my money's not being wasted. Thank you.
You can point it downwards towards you.
I'm Denise Howard, and I'm on K241. And when I look around, there are a whole lot of senior citizens in here. And but I do want to say that I appreciate so much what you have tried to do. And it is important for us to know the big picture. you know, you can't fix the small one if you don't know what the big one is. And so we do know now what that kind of big picture is. But I know that, when my husband and I retired, we did just fine. We had Social Security and one little pension thing. But as time has evolved, it doesn't meet our needs exactly, you know. So when we put a proposal together, I'm wondering if there isn't a way to look at what you have done well, and then try to figure out where the first necessities are. If we tear down a building, we have excavation and those costs to tear down, and then we're gonna put it up and we have those costs that we are trying to cover right now. If we could look at the things in a more, sort of, a more balanced way, for lack of a better way to tell you, then maybe we could keep the costs of, you know, $600 and something down to something. You know, some people are not having a problem, and some of us are. You know, and if we do something, I'm probably not going to be here in 25 years. I sure hope so, Grace. I'm not likely. But my children are. And when we say that there are just this many lots, well, on my lot, you have me and my husband and 5 children and 9 grandchildren. So we're not looking at the idea, we're looking at who owns the lot. I own the lot, but I come with all those people. And I don't want to leave. I want my children, when I'm gone, to be having their children and my grandchildren. I mean, I think a lot of us would think that we want our kids, you know, we don't want to have everything stop when we die. So maybe we need to see if there is a way, taking all the information that you have done already, which, you know, I want you to know is greatly appreciated. You know, there's 2,400 lots here, and we have a board, I think, of 12 people. We don't, you know, we all can't do that job, and we don't want to. But somebody stands up and they're saying they're going to do it. So we have to try to help them a little bit. And I just think that maybe if we backtrack, I don't think the 5-year thing is a bad plan. And I think we've been here 30 years. I've been here for 30 years. You know, my kids, I have babies here. And so we could look at it a little bit differently maybe, and take the things that have to be done, or that you have, you know, the priorities is the lake, and figure out how in a 3 or 5-year period, not ever giving up the whole thing, but just to get to where it's more balanced of what can you afford, what can everybody, we don't want to, you know, outspend ourselves, is what I was trying to say. But, you know, I know, I've talked to other people, I know how hard this job was for you. This was not a picnic, and it's got a lot of information and a lot of ways that you had to look at it. So maybe we need to go back a little bit and see, is there some way to give a little more balance, is what I'm saying, with time and with money.
You just so you understand, I encourage you to look at the list of aspects we put together and the timing, because that's not arbitrary how the list of what you're going to do. It's based on priorities. Some CCs are in much worse shape than others. Those CCs are going to get done sooner. And so we're trying to take the items that are the highest priority and do them first.
And one other thing I wanted to mention that I don't think is going to be clear tonight is the well pumps, the pumps for the lake, and the pumps that get the water to us. Every one of those came back in the red category. I think it's everything, right? Every one of those came back, and that, to me, if we don't get water to our facility, we don't get water into this lake. That is absolutely critical, right? So how do we prioritize those critical issues and make it more manageable over time is what I think I'm hearing ask us to consider. As the board of
See, this is what I'm saying. This is a real good example because yes, you absolutely have to take care of that water. You know, what you just said. We absolutely have to do that, and so that would bring itself up into a place where it needs to be done. But when I go to my CC, I'm on CC 12, the firemen's, you know, but they put beautiful wood all over. It's immaculate. So it would just be, and we have all of the people that camp there. We have lots of campers, and it is kept so nice. And I would think, why in the world would we tear this thing down right now to put up a new one? There's, you know, there are some things that could wait. Because I can't see, nobody's ever, you know, it's always, toilets are always flushing, everything's always working right. I can't visualize or understand exactly why, no, all of them.
Well, on the list, I'm sure CC 12 is somewhere, but because it is a newer CC, we're applying for something way 25 years from now. So to your point, that's exactly what we're doing. We're not going to touch CC 12, we're going to renovate it a long time from now. But we want to plan for that. It's going to happen someday.
But maybe we could have a plan for how we can afford it.
And that's why we're here today.
Yeah, and thank you again, you've done a great job.
Hi, I'm Beth Spiller, I'm from Slate 234, and I have been here since day one. My parents bought in 6 months before St. Pines ever opened, so I have seen things all these years. And one of the things that we have gotten rid of that I really would love to see here is where we have volunteer committees that go out and actually work on cleaning up the park, re-roofing a building. I mean, my dad helped re-roof this building. My dad actually, back when the vacation land was actually the first chapel, there was all kinds of trees, little saplings and everything. My dad picked them all out of there and he planted them. Phase one probably hates me right now, but those 200-foot trees were from that time. My dad planted them all on the lot lines and everything. You know, and everybody volunteered to help. You know, you couldn't volunteer, you didn't have the ability, you brought food, and we had a potluck that helped, you know, feed these people who are working. You know, I don't know why we don't do more of that. I know it might be a liability thing, but maybe if we sign something, you know, that takes that liability away, can we help, you know, keep the costs down? But it's just a suggestion.
I mean, there's so many great suggestions tonight, but why don't we do something like that? I think there is a committee a group of people that does some planting and stuff like that, right? I mean, there are a couple of these out there, but I think
The committee used to do a lot, like they put most of the fencing, the old fencing that was around here, they actually did that. I can tell you story after story, but yeah, there's so many things here where people helped, and in the last, like, I'd say 20 years of the 54 that we've been here, 54, 55 years, we literally have just gone away from that. Everybody just takes care of their own stuff, and that helped me in the whole park. And I would love to see more of that.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, if I volunteer for something, do I get a free massage? Jim Buchanan, we're over here on the lake site, and Earth 4008. We also are blessed enough to be in the condo 7028. I worked for Gary Bauer down here when the park first opened, one of the original maintenance guys down here. My wife and I were dancing on this floor as teenagers. So the park means a lot to us. We have a tremendous amount of history here. Before we came back, it was pre-COVID, the in-laws were having some medical challenges. We were up at Brower Park. We spent $1,800 for 24-hour security, for water, and for electric. That was it. We came here and paid the same price. Today, from 2018 to 2026, 8 years, Brower Park is now $2,800 to $3,600 if you're so lucky to be on the water. If anyone here, and I would imagine there's a lot of people that were seasonal people at Brower Park, but what this park gives for the money is absolutely unbelievable. A lot of you people know over at the condos, we signed an agreement and we lease the property. We do pay property taxes. So over there, we're paying about $7,000 to $8,000 a piece in property taxes on top of the dues. They will plow my lot over here. I have to shovel it. We pay for plowing over there because the agreement we made was that we will pay for all expenses in the condos. We pay for our own mowing. We pay for everything, even though we pay the same dues here. But those condos have gone up in value because we're the only condos in West Michigan that have a mini golf, have 3 pools, have security through over there, which we do get security. Thank you, Todd. And it's just an amazing community. Over there, we do have a volunteer staff, but we have to be very careful at what they do because of the liability if they get hurt. So we have to be careful who gets up on the roofs, who might do the roof shingles, because things have changed and litigation is very expensive. So we have to be careful. But yeah, we can get back to some volunteers. Speaking as being on one of the committees, I'm on a few of the committees with my position here, but the big committee that I signed up for was the lake community, or the lake committee. The changes that we've made and what I see in this long range of putting the new pumps in. If you've never listened to any of the meetings from the lake committee, to save our lake, which is absolutely, I learned how to ski out here with Clyde and Jim and Bob and a bunch of guys when I was 14 years old. To save this lake, you have to get the water levels up. You have to get a hardened edge so we don't undercut it as the water goes down. We are doing a tremendous amount of work, and the board has listened to us. There's 2 new pumps into this budget, very early on in the year 1 and year 2. There's a lot of things they are doing. Is everyone going to do everything right? No. Is there going to be trial and error? We tried to put a pump in over in phase 3. We looked at it. We had help from the county. Phase 3, we wanted to be able to increase the water flow because the way to eliminate pollution, or the solution for pollution, is dilution. Let's bring some water from down below that's 54, 58 degrees up. Cool the lake down so the seaweed doesn't get going better. There's a lot of things that these committees have done. If you want to know what the park's doing with your money, join the committee. Be involved. Get something going to where you can say, where can I fit in? This is our community. And Rivers Ridge, they come a little closer to the amenities we have. They don't open until May 1st. They close October 15th to October 31st. You can't go in there any other time. You're done. Shut out. Here we can come in here. Rivers Ridge, right up by Brower Park on the Mosquito River. They are at $3,800 plus getting your seepage and your tanks dumped on top of it. There's a lot of different things, and I know some of these things are stressful. It's stressful to my mother-in-law. She's on a fixed income. Some of us that have the ability may have to come along to help some of those people, because I'm telling you, without those people investing 50 years ago, we wouldn't have this place. We would not be blessed. When I was working on redoing the dam over here, the young guys that came out from the government said, they dammed up a drainage ditch and made this place. We would never, ever allow that today. We are so blessed to have this place right now. And again, if you see the way they're running it, we get to vote every year for new leaders to come and do the right thing for money. We can flip them over left and right if you want to do that. But the money they're asking for is, as far as I'm concerned, way behind the times when I look at the places I spent money at and what it cost to keep a place like this running. And then when you look at it, something was mentioned about the park doing to make money. We, with our dues, pay 38% of running this park. When you can go into some of the managers' meetings and you see what the store is doing, when you see what the ice cream shop, that was one of the best investments we could have made with the money that's going to turn over in the first 2 years, let alone 10 years. We are doing something great with some of the leadership. Just get plugged in, get involved, and that will maybe change some of your points of view of what's going on. But thank you guys for everything you're doing, especially you guys on the long range. And the chapel is a completely separate, they lease that property, so we do have to work with them, but they do work with us quite nicely. So, thank you, everybody.
Is it ice cream time? I very much from my heart, thank you so much for everything you've shared. I think there are a lot of notes. I'm hoping that we can get some good responses from the board members, from the committee members. We'll fill in some gaps that we're hearing here. This is an amazing turnout. You guys are great. Thank you for sharing. We will be leaving up some these white post-it boards and leaving behind stacks of post-its and things. If you think of other ideas, other questions, other feedback that you want to share, feel free to write it down and stick it up there. We're going to leave these stuck to the wall for about a week, I think. So at the end of the week, we'll have some members, take them out, take pictures of them for us so we can continue to collect your feedback. Or anybody that maybe couldn't make it here, tell them and let them come in and speak to it, especially because this information will definitely be out on the website. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. I'm going to join you for the ice cream social, and so is Tom. So if you have any questions for us specifically after this,
Where are the boards going to be maintained, and we can add here in this building?
Yep, I'm just going to stick them in the wall.
Can we get into this building?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure, I guess. Where should we put them?
The North Shore we can get into. We use our key card, we can get in. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's a good suggestion. I appreciate it. We'll put them in the North Shore. So, thank you.